Hello. Just leave it. I don't know how else to say hello. Just leave.
Hello.
Hello. Um, we've been living in our van about 2 years now. And 18 months ago we did a van tour, and this is just a follow up on that, on things that we would change. Wrote a blog post about it recently.
Yeah, I guess a lot of people ask us online, what would you change in your van, or would you do anything differently? So that was like the idea behind the blog post recently that we did. But we just thought we would go through the blog post for a video instead. Because yeah, it's been like 18 months since we posted anything.
Yeah, just go a bit more in detail about things. Um, changes. Well, firstly, changes we've already made. Um,
Yeah, so I guess since we filmed the first van tour, we've added a Lagun table mount into the cab. So we were finding sometimes it was a bit of a pain having both of us working, wasn't it? Like in the
yeah.
same on the same space. So we've got a table leg that's now mounted on the shower, so we can work from the cab or the back of the van. So that was one thing. I guess like the heater as well.
Yeah, we when we first moved into the van in January 2022, originally we were only going to be in the UK. And I think from traveling around, LPG, which is what our original heater ran off, was just becoming harder and harder to find in the UK, and we were going to have to like trying to plan our trips and journeys around it. So we decided to swap it out to the diesel one.
Yeah, so
Um,
that's a Truma. It's the diesel. It's the 6D model if you want to look it up. So that can run off diesel or electric. That one.
yeah, and it's been a lot better. It made things a lot easier in the UK, and since being in Europe as well, it's LPG is not as hard to come across here. It's easier, but I think overall we're happy with the decision to change that. I think that was um, a big thing that we were glad that we did. I think.
Yeah, and I guess power wise as well, we had a Victron Orion, which is the 30 amp DC charger. So we had one of those when we had the van built, but we've added a second one since. So the alternator on the Boxer is quite big. I think it's like 240 amps is standard. So it's got plenty of headroom for adding a second one in, and that makes a big difference when you're doing short drives, especially in winter when you're not getting a lot of solar. So that was a really good thing. So I think quite often now we're pulling 60 to 70 amps whilst driving between the two DC chargers, and even on like a low solar day. So that's really good.
Yeah, I think it helps a lot over winter when days like today when it's not so sunny.
Yeah, this is like our first non-sunny day in what feels like a year, which is why we're getting a YouTube video done.
Because we're not
um,
outside.
I guess one of the things was, are we still happy with the van choice? Like the actual van that we're in?
You're not going to talk about the shower,
No, we'll do that later.
all right? But it's changes we've already made.
But we're just going through the blog post.
Oh, all right. So, are we still happy with the van choice? Yeah, 100%. I don't think that we would pick any other van. I think it's the one thing that we've not had any doubts or anything about. We've had no problems mechanically or anything at all with it, I would say.
Yeah, I think we've done. So we got it new, and we've done I think about 30,000 miles on it now, and we've done the brake pads services with like filters and oil changes,
Just
and
sort of standard maintenance.
yeah, that's it. We've not had anything actually outside of just wear and tear. We did have to replace two tires coming back out of grease because we did.
That was
Uh,
our own fault.
yeah, we got the van stuck and scrubbed a lot of the tread off. So we put two new tires on it.
Went down a road we should not have gone down.
Um, hey, babe. But yeah, as a van, it's been really good. It feels a little bit big in the UK sometimes when we were first in the UK, but as soon as you get to Europe, we're quite often like one of the smallest vans in the car park,
Yeah,
aren't we?
motorhomes are really big out here, more than I think van conversions are. So yeah, often when we're like where we're parked now, which is sort of like an air that we're in Portugal, we are probably one of the smallest vehicles I think here.
Babe.
But I think the biggest benefit I think that we find though, not the benefit, but there's nowhere we've not struggled to go anywhere really. There's been like odd roads obviously that we've gone down that we probably shouldn't, but generally we've kind of been able to go down any roads. We've not been restricted in any way, I don't think.
Yeah, it's been good. Yeah, so we're both really happy with that. And I guess we covered off the tyres. What else did we talk about here? I guess one thing we would probably change now is like the setup on the roof. So when the van was built, all of the antennas and the solar panels are all mounted directly to the van. So there's obviously lots of holes in the roof where these things are added. I think in hindsight we would have preferred to have had that mounted on an external rack, so that it was a bit more modular. Like we would take the 5G antenna off the roof now, we'd probably push the panels together, and we think we'd probably be able to get another solar panel on. I think as well, eventually, when the dishes become a bit smaller, we'll probably end up with a Starlink dish for satellite internet as well. So if the rack was on there, it'd just be far more modular and easy to move things around. So that's definitely something we'd change in future.
Probably the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I get. Well, was talking about the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Well, that is this is our current router setup. This is a ZTE MU5120. This is a 3, 4, and 5G router. We were using a MU5001 before this. We've had this one a couple of months. It's got a slightly newer modem in. But the main thing is we don't use, and we haven't used for well over a year now, the external antenna. We found that the modems in the routers and the compatibility with the antenna wasn't fantastic. And if you have like a good modern router, then the signal's been really good. So
Yeah, we've got signal pretty much everywhere. Like we work 3 days a week, so having good signal is obviously quite important to us. But we've been literally kind of in the middle of nowhere and still had really good signal. So I think that's definitely been a good investment.
Yeah, definitely. I think we're planning eventually to maybe go for the satellite option, just for like knowing we can go to super remote places, or maybe places in the mountains where like phone signal might be more obstructive. But we'd always have something like this as like our always on internet, because obviously some of the satellite options you have to turn them on and off or move them around. And I guess sim wise, we've been using a company called Connect Plus for the last since January this year.
Yeah.
Across Turkey, Greece, and then all the way back to the UK, and then back down to Portugal. So they do like a SIM only unlimited data SIM. So that works all across Europe. So that's what we're using in here as well to work from. So that's been really good. So
Yeah,
we really
they've been
recommend
really, really good. I'd recommend.
that. Cool. I guess in terms of the shower as well, there's when we're talking about the roof.
Yeah, the roof light. I don't, not the roof light, the vent.
Yeah, like the skylight.
It's a sky. Sorry, yeah, that's what I was going with. It's a skylight. I don't think we'd have that in there really. I think we'd probably just change it out for an extractor fan. We don't really open the skylight that much. We get a lot of bugs in when we do. And I think, yeah, just ventilation wise, I think it'd have been better to have just put an extractor fan in there, rather than the roof light vent.
Yeah, it's just a bit flimsy. I think it's a Heki Mini. It's got no fly screen, and like it's just anything else like that on your roof is something else potentially to like break or whistle or leak through. So yeah, I think an extractor is what we'd do in future. Gosh, we've got like loads of stuff on here.
Oh, one thing we did change. Oh, I don't know if we're going to mention it now about the light in the bathroom.
Oh yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. We didn't put a light in the bathroom, like its own light. We had it was just running off the main lights in the van. So like in the evenings and things, and obviously in the night and stuff, when the main lights aren't on, we'd have nothing in the shower room. We've now put something in there. What's it we've put in there now?
It's just a little USB rechargeable light, but it's got a PIR sensor, so it's always off unless at night. And then when you open the door, it just pings on and off. And we got given that actually by my brother-in-law, and we charged it like 3-4 weeks ago, and we've not had to charge it since. So that's been really good.
Yeah, it's been really, really good. That, so I would definitely put. I think we'd have, if that's fine now, but I think if we were doing the build again, we'd have built something in so it ran separately off the mains.
Fridge size, I guess.
Yeah, I think a couple of things with the fridge. I think we'd have a bigger one if we could. I don't think it's not been a huge issue, the size that we've got. You know, there's a lot of, fridge Tetris going on. But I think if we could have put a bigger fridge in, we'd probably have, what is it, the 100 litre that we'd have?
Yeah, so we've got the Dometic CRX80 at the moment, and we'd go for the 110 in future.
Yeah.
It's like we've got enough space for food, but it's if you want like bottles of wine or beers or like soft drinks, we don't normally have enough space.
Yeah, and the
like,
freezer space is really small as well, which would be beneficial, like for that to be a little bit bigger, particularly where we've been in sort of quite hot countries. I think that, speaking of the fridge, the other thing as well is probably the ventilation around the fridge, isn't it?
Yeah, we've got quite generous ventilation, like around. We'll like overlay some clips of it so you can see, but around to the outside of the fridge. But in hot countries and when the sun's on the outside of the van on the fridge side, it's the compressor's like in overdrive all the time. So when we were in Greece, it was like 30 plus degrees inside the van for like weeks on end, basically. So we've had to put a vent into the wall to allow some air near the compressor. But I think really, you see it on all the motorhomes. They've all got external vents for the fridges. So I think realistically, we would put another hole on the outside of the van just so the fridge can breathe a
Yeah,
bit better.
because like the cupboard and the wardrobe and stuff above the fridge were just getting really, really hot all the time. And so yeah, I think more ventilation around there would have made a big difference.
Yeah, so there's definitely we need to do some more work, but we've put a vent in so far, so hopefully that will help for a bit. Um, I guess something we probably wouldn't bother with in future because it's just an additional cost is we've got like LED plinth lights at the bottom of the van along the floor.
We never use them.
They've no, they were like used to try them almost and say, oh look, this is kind of nice, but then we've never used them since, so we wouldn't bother with that in
No,
future.
not really, no.
Um, I guess worktops.
Yeah, I think that generally leads on to the overall materials that have been used in the van. Um, the worktop hasn't kind of stood up very well, and neither has sort of a lot of the cupboards and things. I think we didn't realise, maybe when doing the van, is that when you live in it full time and then you're traveling to a lot of different places, the amount of movement in the back of the van is quite a lot. And then with the change in temperatures as well, I think it's not the materials that have been used for everything haven't been very durable, and I think potentially might need to all be replaced in the next couple of years. So it hasn't lasted as long as kind of we hoped it would.
Yeah, I think like the things with like the wooden countertops and stuff like they are good and they are durable, but they just need maintenance, and that
Yeah.
maintenance is like really hard when you live in a van. So we probably need to sand ours back and do multiple coats and like re-oil it and like re-osmo it, and it'll look like brand new again. But the problem is you can't really like sand and re-oil worktops when you're living in a van and moving around. You need to be like living outside of the van really to do it. So it's quite difficult. Um, but yeah, I guess it is what it is. It's like a house. It wears, but everything wears really quickly because you're using the same cupboard like 50 times a day and the same drawer 50 times a day. Or
Yeah,
yeah,
that's the thing. And we've gone to so many different places and different sort of landscapes and things where, going down really bumpy roads, up and down different things. We've been in so many different climates. And yeah, I think that's probably one thing is we'd probably have a different type of worktop. I think the materials for the cupboards and everything, we'd probably choose a different type of material. Um, and yeah, I think that's it really.
yeah. I think just like temperature and humidity. It's there's like some of the cupboards have warped. We'll show like a clip of like our main wardrobe, but it's like really bowed out, and that puts a lot of stress on the hinges, and then the hinges wear, and then that puts more stress on like what the hinges are attached to, and then like so it by having like one thing out, it affects like the whole structure of the van quite quickly.
Yeah. And then
Um,
it's difficult again. It's difficult things to change when you're on the road and things as well. And it's you can't change one cupboard if that's damaged and then not everything else because then it doesn't obviously all match. So yes, it's kind of a difficult thing to then kind of fix or do in the van.
yeah, I've got like a note on one here which is about like this gap that you probably can't see here because we've got the pillows, but we've got like a gap probably like this between where the mattress and the bed finishes and where the back doors start. And although we've got these like little shelves here, we always like let's say 10 times a week a phone or the
Well, I
router.
think it's how you lost your AirPod, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I recently lost some AirPods because I kept them on the back door and then they like fell into the garage and then I didn't realise that they'd fallen out of the garage into a car park. So we just need to like pad out something so there's basically no gap between the back of the bed and the back doors, really, don't we?
Yeah,
Like that's something easy that we can retrofit, but we've
yeah,
just not got around to it yet. But yeah, like this router quite often will be like, oh, the internet's dropped out. Like that's weird. Why is and then we find out that this is like
just in the garage.
yeah, just in the garage somewhere. Um, I think that's it on the bedroom. Like we really love like we're super happy that we went for like the width of a king. The bed's really good, proper house mattress.
You've had no problems with that. Having the windows recessed as well. Um, I think was I'm so glad that we did that because I think we would struggle because we're both tall. Like like I'm fine and I fit fine in the bed. You're at a little bit of a diagonal. For reference, Marcus is about 6'3" and I'm 5'11". So it's a tall person problem, I would say. If you're shorter, it's probably less so. But yeah, I think that's been a big sort of difference for us, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I've been really happy with that. Let's see what else we've got on here.
You want to do the bathroom?
I think I've like everyone just following the blog down. There's some talk on electrics here. Um, Most of the blog post is just saying that we've actually genuinely, on the whole, been like really happy with the electrical setup. I think there's a couple of bits that we would change slash upgrade now, and these are kind of like things that we would like, but we don't really need. So we would like to get more solar on the roof. So we've got 540 watts at the moment. I think if we had like a rack system and we could push everything together, we could probably get another 180 on there. So that would be really good. And we've currently got 360 amp hours of lithium battery, which kind of at the time building the van, like lithium was like just starting to become quite popular, I guess. But
Yeah, it's a bit more mainstream now, I
yeah,
think.
and that has driven the prices down. So I think now would probably go in the same setup. Would probably put like a 460 amp hour or a 500 amp hour lithium block in, with the exception that if we fitted air conditioning, so we have investigated air conditioning a little bit, we don't think we're going to fit it to this van just because of, I think you need to like really build your layout around the aircon as opposed to retrofitting it. But we'd probably want like 900 amp hours of lithium at that point because we want to use it off grid.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. We put a lot of thought and research into electrics when we designed the van because it was always going to be something really important to us because where we're both working, just charging a lot of things, just not we don't ever want to be in a position where we were going to run out of power. And we haven't. It's not been an issue at all. We've been absolutely fine. I think it's just kind of thinking about the future, and things that we, like Marcus said, would like to change. We had a very hot summer in Europe, where it was like between 30 and 40 degrees. And it was fine, it was great, but it just was very difficult to do in that heat, without then, and with an aircon system, I think that would make a big difference. But being able to have it run off grid would then change, we'd have to change the whole sort of electrical system, which is not super feasible at the moment. But yeah, it's all things I think that we would like, kind of thinking about sort of future plans and what we would do.
I think as well when you, like we certainly did, when you spec out an electrical system, you should balance your input with your capacity. So how much solar you can generate versus how much you can store, which is obviously super sensible. But actually, you should, like my experience is that we should do it more to the capacity because when it gets really hot, you seek shade, and then obviously you nerf your solar yield. So if you like arrived at a site and you had loads of capacity and it was full and day to day you're only using like 10-15% of your battery, so you feel like you're not getting good value out of it. But actually if you want to park in the shade for 2 weeks and not drive anywhere, like that's when you like really need the capacity when you're not bringing in power. So that's why I think we'd increase our battery size now would just to be, it would just give us like another 2 or 3 days without having to like move the van or be in the sun.
I think electrics is just one of those things. It's better to have too much power than not enough, I think. So I would just kind of go all in on it as much as you can, I think,
Yeah, it's
in the
like,
beginning, rather than having to try and change it up when you find out later on that actually it's maybe not enough.
yeah, and it is like one of the most expensive parts of the build, isn't it? Like the electrics is, and it is a huge expense. So I guess the other thing is if you're going to scale your electrics over time, then just buy components that will all work together and that you can like grow your van into as opposed to having to swap things out.
Yeah.
I think the only other thing on electrics is because we put the table in the cab, we've got no power in the cab. So it would be nice to have a 240 socket in the front for like when we're working on the MacBooks, and then probably another live 12 volt. So we can just do like Type C charging in the cab when the engine's not running as well. So that's probably two other bits would change. Um,
Bathroom.
yeah, I think the bathroom is probably the last
Okay.
major bit really. Yeah, do you want to talk about the shower?
Yeah. That's probably the biggest change that we've made that we've been really happy with. It was like a normal household shower tray that we had in there, and it cracked. We got it replaced, and then it eventually ended up cracking again. And it didn't wear very well either, and so we decided to change that. We actually got the idea from Chloe and Taylor from Loki Travel Box, who had a different type of shower where it's vinyl on the floor. So we've recently just changed all of that out, and it's just made such a huge difference. Because now we want to use the shower a lot more. We're happier using it. We both enjoy it a lot more, I think. Yeah, I think that's been a huge difference, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think the other thing is like it's the cost and probably time to build as well is massively reduced by just building a wet room as opposed to trying to like use motorhome or like camper van specific parts. So ours is not 100% how we would do it if we were building it from scratch now, but it's within the constraints of what was already built. So we've got the Rico waterproof like sheet paneling down the walls, and then we've used Altro Contracts as the flooring. So we've built like a lip and a floor from Altro Contracts. It feels really nice and it's quite grippy when you're in there. But yeah, I just think it's one of those things where I just could never recommend a tray or would ever go back to a tray now. Over like our experience over the last few weeks with the wet room
It's
build.
just not suitable, I think, for a van. And as I said, as I said before, there's so much movement in the van that you just need something that's really going to be solid and is going to last. And yeah, a plastic shower tray just it's not going to cut it. As I said, we went through two, and they both cracked and were damaged in the same place. So yeah, I think making it more wet room from the beginning, I think, is something we definitely would have done, and I would recommend to do that to anyone, I think.
Yeah, so I think that's it really. Like that's the main bulk of the changes. So there's nothing like too crazy that we've done, and we've done obviously some bits that we want to change. There's some bits that we will probably continue to do over the next few months, like some of the smaller tweaks. Um,
I think a lot of people often ask us about the layout as well, whether we're happy with the layout or whether we would change that. And I think that's one thing we've been really happy with. We spent a lot of time, I think, designing the layout, didn't we, and thinking about it and moving stuff around. And for us, it's worked perfectly. I don't think there's anything we would change in that side of things. I think it's all kind of little things, I
I'm probably
think.
going to run out of recording time, isn't it?
Oh, okay. Should I just stop talking then?
Why don't I just wrap it up? I think
All right.
we're
Well,
like
that
recording onto something that basically I think we had like 23 minutes to film in one take, and we're on 22 minutes 42 right now. So
But generally, the big things, everything's been good. It's just little things I think that we would sort of change here and there. But that's generally the bulk of it.
yeah, and I'll leave a link to like the blog post, which is where most of this content came from, in the description if you want to see it. And if you've got any other queries,
Put it in the comments.
yeah, put it in the comments or give us a shout over on our Instagram because that's kind of where we post more often.
Yeah, and where we tend to respond to quite a lot of things as well.
Cool. Hope you found it helpful.
There you go.